Information. Let's bring in retired detective and former FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force member Steve Rogers, who's with us now. Steve, what does it say to you, if anything, that the suspect is an Asian man? The Lunar New Year, widely celebrated. This is a massive 2-day celebration in Monterey Park that's very well known. And then everyone, at the end, they go off to parties and celebrate and events. They were in this ballroom, and there have been 2 events that were targeted. I mean, certainly this does appear to be terrorism. Is it hate? Is it, racial type hate? What do you see happening here? Romantic, for example. We just don't know the motive. What does, so far, any of this tell you?
Well, we don't, but I could tell you that the key to finding this individual is going to be a lot of groundwork by the police, a lot of interviews, a lot of looking at videos, any video available, anyone in there who maybe was videotaping the celebration and somewhere captured the photograph of this individual. Hate crime, I don't know. As you say, could there have been some of a bone of contention the individual had with the owners of this establishment? So it's going to be a lot of groundwork going on. I believe they'll eventually catch this individual, but it's going to be, as I said, a lot of interviews, a lot of reviewing of video footage, not only any video that may have been in the establishment, but outside the establishment, in houses and other stores, etc.
If we have a video or the photo, there it is right there. It appears to be an Asian man who is the suspect, the police are saying, the videos of him. You have one shooting, 10 people killed at one ballroom. Then over that one in Monterey Park. And then he heads over, and about half an hour later or so, a suspect does the same thing at another ballroom. In that case, they're able to wrestle the gun away from the guy. He flees. So you have the standoff now, the suspect, a suspect, in a cargo van, a white van, similar to that seen at both sites, according to witnesses. How do police get him to surrender peacefully, potentially?
Well, they're going to do a lot of negotiating with him. I've done some of that in the past. It's going to take some criminal profilers, if you will be on the scene, and they'll be looking at or listening to if there's any reaction, the behavior, if they could see him. It's going to take a lot of talking to this individual to actually surrender himself. But I must tell you, it's so important for police to capture him alive. It's so important to have this individual survive any confrontation with the police, because we'll find out if more people were involved in any planning, if this was an individual lone wolf, if you will. But taking him alive is fundamentally and critically important in order for the police to pursue this investigation. It won't end with his capture. That's probably the most difficult part of the investigation, to see if there was anyone else involved or if anyone knew that this was going to happen.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, oftentimes or sometimes there are threats. People, show up, or there certainly is generally a social media type history and presence that sometimes can point to motives, to hatreds, to resentments, to anger. And you brought out to the owner of the ballroom or both ballrooms, or maybe against people celebrating because you're a lone wolf, anti-social type person. And this is the way, in your mind, you can get back at society by we've seen that before, by walking in and conducting a mass shooting. And what's so shocking, especially, is that it happened in the Asian American community.
Well, that is shocking. That's very unusual. But Eric, you brought up a very good point. Look, you and I have discussed many of these shootings around the country, and inevitably we find out that there was indeed a social media footprint. There were things written on an internet. There were discussions in chat rooms. And that's where we always remind people, look, if your instinct is telling you someone's going to do something very violent, you need to make a phone call and let the police know. And I'm sure they'll follow up rather rapidly in view of the fact of what's going on across this country. Something could have been said. Maybe he had a bone of contention with the owner. Maybe there was a romantic situation going on with someone at this particular location. A lot of maybes, but catching him alive is critically important, and all those questions will be answered.
And you've done that with suspects. Walk us through the psychological aspects of talking to someone. They're in a frenzied state of mind. They're usually in a completely unstable mental state, emotions running high. How do you establish contact with them? One of the methods is to deliver coffee a lot to keep them talking and try to get them away from any weapon, especially.
Well, yeah, I mean, deliver coffee, yes, good point. Speak to them. I've spoken to them about their family. How's your mom? How's your dad? Do you have any kids? You want to try to make that person understand that you are not an adversary to hurt them, but you want to be a person who's coming to help them. And it takes quite some time to do that, but you could certainly calm people down if you speak to them calmly, if you speak to them in a way that they don't feel that they're threatened. What has to be done, and this is for the criminal profilers more than anyone else, they have to establish, hopefully, that this person doesn't want to die. Because if you get a person like that who wants to die, they're going to come out blazing at some point, and you'll have no choice but to kill them.
Do you think
that obviously no one wants to do.
Would they be on the phone with them potentially right now? A cell phone? We don't see anyone near that van, and we see the officers basically just waiting as there apparently is communication.
Yeah, sometimes you have to deliver a cell phone to them. So there was some communication, I'm sure, going on one way or the other with this individual. And if that person has a cell phone, the question is, how did they get the number? How did police get the number? Or did that person make a call and said, here I am? Many times, cell phones would be delivered to individuals, and that's how they can establish communication. Other times, you're either yelling or you're not yelling violently, but raising your voice so the person could hear you and you could hear them. And that's when you offer them a friendly gesture. Would you like a cup of coffee? Are you hungry? Let's talk about it. Do you have any problems at home? And there are a lot of good experts in law enforcement who will actually approach this in a manner that it will not escalate, but de-escalate.
All right, Steve. Thank you.